There's a question that's been haunting men for generations. Why does life sometimes feel so empty? Even when you're checking all the boxes, you've got the good job, maybe a decent house, perhaps a partner who loves you, or you've got the car, the sneakers, the phone, the vacations in Miami or Vegas. And yet, late at night, when the lights are off and your phone's silent, there's this strange ache in your chest, a quiet whisper that asks, is this really it? And you start wondering if the game you're playing is rigged. I'm not talking about mild boredom. I'm talking about a genuine emptiness. The kind that makes you stare at your reflection in the bathroom mirror and feel like a stranger. You know what I mean? That flicker of panic where your mind races. I'm doing everything right, so why don't I feel right? And this isn't some first world problem. It's a silent crisis among American men. And we almost never talk about it. But today, we're going to talk about it, because ignoring it is exactly what's keeping so many of us trapped. Nietzsche called it nihilism. That moment when all the old meanings collapse. Jung called it the shadow, the parts of yourself you bury because you're scared of what you might find. And if you're a man in America today, you're feeling both, whether you realize it or not. You might be paying your mortgage, working overtime, thinking about retirement funds, but deep down, there's a part of you that's starving, and no amount of hustle culture, side hustles, or Instagram quotes is filling it. I get it, man. You were told if you just worked hard, kept your head down, you'd eventually have it all. That was the promise, right? Graduate, get a degree, land a good job, buy a house, settle down. But no one warned you that having it all can feel like holding a trophy made of glass. It looks shiny, but it's fragile as hell. And one crack, a divorce, job loss, health scare, and the whole thing shatters. That's why so many guys feel like they're living someone else's script. Sometimes the emptiness comes out as quiet resentment. Sometimes as explosive anger. Other times it's just numbness. You're there physically, but mentally, you're checked out. Scrolling through TikTok at 2 a.m., not even remembering what you watched. Telling your friends, I'm good, bro, when inside, you're not good at all. The shadow grows stronger the more you pretend it doesn't exist. And Nietzsche would say that's exactly how we end up hollow men, successful on paper, but dead inside. I know how dark it can get. I've felt it myself. That sick feeling that you're wasting your one precious life on things that don't truly matter. You start to question whether the American dream is even real or just a marketing scheme. And here's the scary part. If you don't confront that void, it starts deciding your life for you. It makes you sabotage relationships, quit things you care about, isolate yourself. It whispers that there's no point in trying. That's the voice of the void talking. But here's what Jung believed. The shadow holds not just darkness, but your hidden gold. The very things you're avoiding, your anger, your desires, your truth, are clues to your real purpose. It's not about throwing your life away or blowing up your marriage. It's about finally admitting to yourself who you are, and daring to ask what you actually want, not what your parents wanted, not what society expects. But you imagine this. What if your emptiness is actually a signal, like a smoke alarm blaring in the middle of the night, telling you that your life needs a renovation? Not surface level fixes, but soul deep change. That's why this video matters, because I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to tell you that feeling lost doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human, and it might be the beginning of something incredible. So stay with me, because we're about to dive into what Nietzsche and Jung knew about this invisible void inside men. We'll talk about how you can spot it, how it sabotages your life, and how you can transform it into fuel, not just for more hustle but for real meaning. The kind of meaning that makes you wake up and think, I'm exactly where I'm meant to be, and that, my brother, is a feeling worth fighting for. Before we move on, let me ask you, have you ever looked around and thought, is this really my life? Have you felt that weird emptiness even while succeeding? If so, you're not alone. Stick with me for the next part, because we're going even deeper into the truth most men never hear. Let me ask you something real quick before we dive deeper. If you've ever felt like you're living someone else's life, or like you're carrying an invisible weight on your shoulders, drop a comment right now with the words, I'm ready to be real. When I see your comment, I'll know you're serious about finally taking back control, and I'll hit that like button on your comment, because I believe you're the kind of man who's meant for so much more. Alright, go type it now. And once you've done it, let's keep going, because we're about to open doors most men keep locked. Here's the deal. A lot of men mistake emptiness for laziness. You might think, I'm just tired, or but Jung would say your shadow is the real culprit. It's the collection of all your denied emotions and suppressed desires. You bury them because you think they're bad or weak, but burying them doesn't kill them. It just pushes them underground, and sooner or later, they come back up and they come back angry. Think about all the times you said yes when you wanted to say no. All the times you laughed off something that hurt you deeply, or kept your mouth shut to avoid conflict. That's shadow territory. And every time you hide part of who you are, your inner void grows. It's why some men snap over small things, or cheat even when they love their partner, or quit a job out of nowhere. The shadow doesn't want you to keep pretending. It wants to be seen. Nietzsche believed that when men lose sight of meaning, they become vulnerable to what he called the last man. The last man is the guy who chooses comfort over purpose, who trades freedom for safety, who says, whatever, as long as I'm comfortable. But that comfort is a prison, because deep down, every man craves a mission. And when you don't have one, the void eats you alive. It's why success alone never satisfies. Look at modern life. You've got apps for everything. Food delivery, streaming, hookups, entertainment 24/7. On the surface, it's heaven, but under the surface, it's killing your potential. Comfort keeps you passive. It makes you forget you're supposed to be a warrior, a builder, a creator. Nietzsche would say, you're meant to become who you truly are, but you can't do that from the couch. The shadow demands action and truth. Let's be real. The American dream told you success was the goal, but no one told you success might feel hollow. No one warned you about that moment you hit your financial target and still wake up anxious, or that you'd feel guilty for wanting more than your good life. It's not because you're greedy, it's because you're built for purpose, not just comfort. And that's exactly where the hidden void begins to reveal itself. Jung said the cure for emptiness isn't external success, it's integration. You have to bring your shadow into the light. That means facing truths about yourself you've been avoiding. Maybe you're angry about how life turned out. Maybe you're carrying trauma from childhood. Or maybe you've spent years chasing goals that never belonged to you. The truth is brutal, but it's also your path to freedom, and to a life that finally makes sense. Imagine living a life where your choices come from your authentic self, where you're not hiding or performing for others. That's what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming whole. It's why some men feel alive, even in simple lives, while others feel dead inside in million-dollar homes. Because it's not about the external trophies. It's about knowing who you are and why you're here, and living with integrity to that truth. That's why I'm making this video, because no man deserves to feel alone in this battle. You might be surrounded by people and still feel isolated. You might look successful to everyone else and secretly be crumbling. But I'm here to tell you, there's another way. And in the next part, we're going to talk about how to confront that hidden void and how Nietzsche and Jung give you the tools to turn emptiness into power. So if you're ready for part 3, let me know right now. Type, let's keep going, in the comments. Because what's coming up next could change how you see your entire life. Here's the thing, most guys don't realize. Your shadow doesn't just hide the dark parts of you. It hides your gifts too. The courage you've buried, the dreams you've labeled unrealistic, the passions you shut down because someone once told you they were silly. When you ignore your shadow, you don't just avoid pain, you sacrifice power. That's why life starts feeling flat, because you're only living half of who you are. The other half is locked away, demanding your attention. Nietzsche used to say, one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. Your chaos isn't your enemy, it's raw, creative energy waiting to be channeled. Think about the times you felt unstoppable. Maybe it was during a business idea, a workout, a road trip, or building something with your own hands. That fire is the opposite of the void. It's purpose, and it's buried right under your shadow. Unlock it, and you stop feeling empty. Let's get practical. You want to kill the emptiness. You have to stop living your life for external validation, whether it's your boss, your parents, your partner, or social media. Every time you measure your worth by someone else's opinion, your shadow grows stronger. Jung would say, the goal isn't to get rid of the shadow. The goal is to make it conscious. When it's conscious, it stops sabotaging you in the dark, and you become a man who owns his power. Think of how many men end up miserable in careers they don't love, trapped in mortgages they can't afford, buying cars to impress people who don't care, all because they think that's the path to happiness. But Nietzsche would call that living under slave morality, a life built around what society says you should do. The man who breaks free is the man who writes his own rules, who risks being misunderstood, and who dares to live for himself. I get it, living for yourself sounds selfish, but let me flip it for you. When you live authentically, you bring your best self to everyone around you. You become a better partner, father, friend, leader, because you're not carrying resentment, bitterness, or silent regret. Jung believed this was the foundation of true relationships. You can't connect deeply with others if you're disconnected from yourself. Integration is the path to real connection. So how do you integrate your shadow? Start with radical honesty. Admit where you're not satisfied. Name the places where you've been hiding. Look at the parts of yourself you've labeled weak or unacceptable. That anger, that fear, that sadness there, all signals pointing to your authentic desires. When you listen instead of running away, you'll discover gold buried in your shadow. Your purpose lives there, waiting for you to claim it. Here's something else Jung and Nietzsche would agree on. Suffering is part of the journey. Most men spend their lives trying to avoid pain, but avoiding pain just creates a deeper void. You don't build strength without resistance. You don't build wisdom without mistakes. Emptiness is your shadow's way of demanding that you grow. It's the alarm clock telling you it's time to evolve. And if you're brave enough to answer it, your life will transform. Let's bring this back to reality. You're not broken. You're not doomed to feel empty forever. The fact that you're watching this video tells me something huge. You're searching. You want answers. You're willing to look deeper. And that's rare. Most men numb themselves with distractions instead. You're already ahead because you're seeking truth. And that's the first step toward freedom. You just have to keep going. If you're finding this video valuable so far, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now. It's the best way to stay connected, so you never miss these deep dives into the stuff no one talks about. Because on this channel, we're not here for surface level tips. We're here to change how you see yourself and the world. So subscribe, and let's keep growing together. We've still got one powerful part left to cover. Are you ready to finish this journey? Because in the final part, we're going into how to turn emptiness into fuel, how to transform the void into a source of unstoppable power. Let me know in the comments if you're ready for part 4. Type, I'm ready for power. So, I know you're in this with me. Here's the truth. Most people avoid. That emptiness you feel can become the rocket fuel that drives your entire life forward. Jung and Nietzsche didn't think suffering was pointless. They believed it was the crucible where real strength is forged. The void is there to force you to ask deeper questions. Who are you really? What do you actually want? And who would you be if you stopped pretending? That pain is your invitation to build something far greater than comfort. Let's get brutally honest for a second. Comfort zones are killing modern men. We have endless entertainment, fast food, quick pleasures. But it leaves us feeling hollow. Because we're not built for constant comfort. We're built to conquer challenges, to test our limits, to transform. Nietzsche would call this the path of the Bermenschia man who creates his own meaning. The man who stops waiting for permission and starts living with purpose. The reason so many men feel empty even when they have it all is because they've achieved someone else's dream. They've checked all the boxes, career, house, car, relationships, but none of it feels real because their soul was never in it. They followed a blueprint handed to them by society. But true fulfillment only comes when you design your own blueprint, when you're willing to risk failing for something that actually matters to you. Think about the times you felt most alive. It wasn't when things were easy. It was when you were chasing something big, something uncertain. That's the tension between fear and possibility, between the void and meaning. Jung would say that the man who integrates his shadow doesn't eliminate fear, he walks alongside it. And that's what gives his life depth. That's what makes him magnetic and real. People can feel when you're living your truth. So here's my challenge for you. Stop avoiding the void. Sit with it. Listen to what it's trying to tell you. Journal about the parts of yourself you've kept hidden. What have you been afraid to admit, even to yourself? What dream have you buried because it felt impossible? That's your shadow whispering secrets. And if you're brave enough to listen, you'll discover the life you're meant to live. One that's truly yours. And listen, I'm not saying it's easy. Jung called it the most difficult journey a man can take. The journey into himself. But it's the only path that leads to real freedom. You can keep living numb, repeating the same cycles, pretending everything's fine. Or you can become the man who faces himself fully, who uses his shadow as fuel instead of letting it sabotage him. The man who stops settling for good enough and demands something extraordinary. If you've been nodding along and thinking, this is me, then know this. You're not alone. So many men out there feel the same emptiness, the same frustration, but very few talk about it. That's why channels like this exist, because the conversation needs to happen. And because I know that if enough men wake up, we can change not just our lives, but the entire culture. A generation of men living with purpose instead of quiet despair. So, if you're still here with me, I want you to do something important. Smash that like button right now. Not just for the algorithm, but as a commitment to yourself. A symbol that you're done living on autopilot. That you're ready to look your shadow in the face and claim your power. Every like pushes this message further, and maybe it reaches another man who's silently drowning. Help me make that impact. And before we wrap up, I've got one last thing for you. If you've watched all the way to this point, drop this comment below. I choose purpose over emptiness. When I see that comment, I'll hit it with a heart. Because I'll know you're one of the few willing to do the real work. And I genuinely believe you're capable of building a life you're proud of. A life that feels alive, not hollow. Let's create that together. Thanks for staying until the end. Remember, the shadow you're afraid of is the key to everything you're searching for. Don't run from it, run toward it. Because inside your shadow lies your greatest strength, your deepest passion, and your true purpose. This has been Why Men Feel Empty Even When They Have It All. Jung and Nietzsche explain the hidden void. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep questioning, keep growing, and keep fighting for your own truth.